Hey, hey, hey there, everyone. How are you today? We're here. We're still here. It's Monday morning. We are here for Coffee Time Career Chat. We are not passing the day. So, got a little technical difficulties getting started, but we're here. So, if you are joining for the very first time, welcome. My name is Patricia Hayes. I am an executive advisor, empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. All that means is I love helping you get to the next level of where you want to be in your career, in your business, and to do so in a very empowered way, making sure that you leverage all of your resources, especially your relationship resources, and to do so very purposefully and authentically. And today is the last day of this month and of this series where we've been talking about transitions all month long. And it's been a pretty good conversation. So if you have missed any of it, I highly recommend that you go back. You can go back through the feed on any of the socials, or you can just go straight to the YouTube channel where you can get them all listed out and you can binge watch all of your coffee chats, right? So today, though, what we're doing is we're going back and we're going to answer a few questions or work through a few scenarios when it comes to transitions. So as a quick reminder, here's what we've been talking about. We have been talking about this month about transitions, and here are the topics. We were talking about transitions are tough and how you have to be prepared, and the empowered action that you have to take is to start learning how to be uncomfortable, be comfortable with being uncomfortable, I should say. That's the first thing. The second one was that transitions are a process and that we should not try to short cycle the process. It's really important to take the empowered action of resting and waiting, which is so hard for so many of us. I mean, like, I'm right there with the rest of you, okay? But short cycling a transition is dangerous and actually can do more damage than good. Also, that transitions are about growth. And so it's important that you do the work. It's so important. You just have to do the work. And what does that mean? Most of the time, it means we have to do the internal work of reflection, resetting, all of those things. And I have a perfect scenario for that for today. And lastly, transitions are full of opportunity. So it's important to leverage them and to leverage your time and resources appropriately and take the action of speaking up for yourself when you need to, or not just when you need to, but when you should, right? And that's really, really empowering and an awesome thing. And then on our networking days, we were talking about transition as well. So we talked about networking through transitions. So you really got about, I think 6 sessions on transitioning this month. So make sure you go back, take a look at them all, listen in, and enjoy. It should be some good content for you to catch up on. So when I was going through and I said, people should submit questions, or if they didn't submit questions, I would go through some of my own content with working with clients or conversations and develop some scenarios that are most common when it comes to the transition conversation. And that's pretty much what I've done here. If you're listening in and you have a question along the way, please, please, please type it into the comments or the chat. And if I don't, I should be able to see it, even if I don't see your name. If you haven't done the whole little, click the StreamYard thing, but type in your question, type in your concern, and I will be happy to answer whatever questions I can during this time. Okay, so here's a common question / scenario when it comes to transitions. And here it is. I am knee deep in the middle of a nasty transition. I have no idea of what I should do next. This is seems so generic, but it's the most common thing where basically someone is in the midst of a career transition, a business transition, whatever, And even if it's not a nasty one, I mean, like, that's a most often the common scenario. But even if it's not nasty, let's say it's difficult or it's just really challenging for some reason, um, and you just get overwhelmed. I mean, really and truly, you just get there and you're overwhelmed and you're like, what am I supposed to do? Why am I being bothered? Is this even worth it? And so it can be really easy to get caught up and consumed in that. And of course, the easiest and simplest thing to say is don't do it, right? Like don't get caught up and don't get overwhelmed and consumed. But really, what are the strategies? Like, what do you need to do so that you don't get overwhelmed? Or that even in the midst of it, you can still come up for air and know that you're going to be okay. Because that's really what we're talking about here. And here's the thing, and it's one of those, again, seems so simplistic, almost to the point of insulting, but it's so valuable when you realize this one thing. You are not the first person to go through a difficult transition, and you will not be the last. Now, think about that. Think about what's really underlying and why that's powerful. The reason why that is powerful is when you realize you're not the first and you're not the last, it is in no way to undercut the significance of what you're experiencing or what you're going through. Not at all. It's actually to empower you and to help you realize that if you're not the first person, that means there are others who have gone through something similar. And therefore, there's someone out there you can talk to, you can learn from, that you can share with. And when you realize you are not the last person, that means there's someone coming up behind you who is also experiencing some things that you should be able to share and engage with. This is the power of this scenario because it means you're not alone. Most of the time, we get so wrapped up in our head and you get so caught up that you really start believing the hype that's in your head of you're the only one going through this and no one understands. And that simply isn't true. It simply is not true. And when you come to that realization and are willing to accept it, because you do have to accept it, then that leaves you open to be able to receive insight, to receive, some conversations, and to be open to having conversations with other people about what it is you're going through. Okay, to be able to be open to seek additional consultation, to seek some input. All right. So that's the thing I really want you to remember. When you're knee deep in the middle of a transition that's difficult, that's challenging, even if it's a deep, halfway decent one, and you just suddenly feel overwhelmed, remember you're not the only one. You're not the first one. You're not the last one. So now it's time to say, wait, pull back, take a deep breath, and say, who do I need to reach out to? Who can I talk to? What are some of the things I need to learn during this situation that will be helpful to me so that I can use it instead of feeling torn down and worn down, but instead use it as a building block for what's to come next? That's really and truly what you need to do. Okay. So you can do it. You can do it. You can do it with help, and there is help to be had. That's the most important things to remember. Okay. Second question / scenario. Oh, this is a common one. Very, very similar to the first, but a little bit more. I'm so tired of this entire situation and I'm ready to move on. Right. And how many of you all have been there? I know that I've been there when you've had a situation like that. We're just like, I am done with this. This is a load of crap. I'm ready to move on. Like, let's just do whatever that needs to be done. And here's the danger when you're at this scenario, because this is touching directly on that prompt or that feeling of let me just make something happen, which means you're about to try to short cycle your transition, and that's dangerous. Okay. When you are doing that out of frustration, out of anger, out of fear, out of a scarcity mindset, it sets you up for not being able to think things through completely, right? And it sets you up for rash decision making. And that's really the danger of short cycling a transition. You're doing something rashly, not out of thinking things through, because you're just tired. You're just like, I'm done. I'm ready for this to be done. I'm frustrated, right? And this is absolutely one of those times where you have got to slow down, take a deep breath, breathe, and reevaluate where you are. Okay. I have a great story for this one. One of my clients, who I can't wait to share her story in totality, and we're working on a case study for it. She's so awesome. And I have worked with her off and on for several years, right? So during the course of several transitions that she had up until this last one, which was a pretty major one, we've worked together, whether it's in a one-on-one or an intensive or I think, a 6-week thing. We've done a little bit of everything, right? And during the course of this last transition, it really was like, it was really getting pretty tough for her. I'm like, it was already a challenging situation because she was not just trying to look for a new job, right? This is why I don't focus on job shifts. I focus on career shifts. She was actually looking to change industries. So do similar work, but in a completely different industry, different topic. And it wasn't one that she previously had some experience in, right? So there was a lot of novelty to what it is she was trying to do, even though her skill set absolutely was there to be aligned with similar positions in the field. So this is when you're having to pull out what your skills are, and focus on your skills that are transferable rather than just focusing on, quote, the job that you did, okay? This is why focusing on your career development is important, not just a specific job. Most people limit themselves when they do that, all right? So we're working through that. And then we have a moment where it just gets tough, right? The responses aren't coming in. She's fantastic at networking, doing a great job with all of that. But it's literally, I don't like using the word grind, but it literally was just a grind. You just got to keep going through. And we reached a point where she was just like, I'm just tired. I don't even know if this is worth it or whatever. And so I called an audible, right? It was like, time out. We're not going to talk about strategies and all this stuff right now, because now we've got a mindset issue going on and we've got to address it. So we start talking. I'm like, what's going on? What is generating these thoughts, these concerns, and all of that? And when we start talking about it, I'm like, well, what are you doing? Because one of my practices and one of the strategies is to make sure you're doing something outside of your search, outside of your transition, in order to keep you grounded, whether it's a hobby, pursuing an interest, whatever it is, right? And so we were talking about that. It's like, yeah, I'm doing some of that. But then we talked some more. And here's the interesting factor that came up. And I was like, this is not your first transition. So why is this one seeming so difficult, right? We know it's because you're changing industries. It's in a really weird time in the marketplace and all of that. But when we started talking and exploring what her previous transitions looked like, even before working with me, we found a common thread. When she would get to this point of total frustration and just like, I've had it and I'm ready to move on and I need to do something, the something that she did was not to short cycle her transition by trying to go take some action that's out of place. Instead, what she had done, it was the most fascinating thing, was she literally dipped out. she would dip out of the search, the work she was doing, whatever. And when I mean dip out, I mean like she had taken full on mini sabbaticals. I wouldn't even say vacations because they weren't vacations, but she took time to step completely away from the process, even to the point of like leaving the city or state where she was living at the time to get away completely so that she could decompress. And this is something that, even though we worked together for several years, had never come up until now. So that's how heavy this was weighing on her. When I started dipping and talking about what is it you've done over time when you'd reached this point. And when we discovered that, it was so powerful because literally the conversation stopped. And I'm like, so what do you think that means you should do? She's like, all right, let me think about that. And we ended our call. You know, we did a few more things, but we ended our call. Within a week, she called me back and she says, hey, I'm taking off. I'm going out of the country and I'm shutting down shop and I'm getting away. And it was it would seem so drastic and so extreme to someone who didn't know her background in history, that this is something she'd done. And for her, the length of time was important as well, because she had been working so hard in this transition. So saying that she was going to take, she goes, I need a month. I need a month away from all of this. And so she did it. And I was so proud of her because so many people wouldn't do. They're like, how can you do that? You have to do what's necessary for you, not what's going on out in the world. You have to do what's necessary for you to be able to not just survive, but thrive through the transition that you're going through, right? Everybody may not be able to do that. Everybody may not want that, may not be the way that you handle it. But whatever it is, there is a pattern. There is something that we've all done when we reach that point of like, I've had it, and you're about to do something you shouldn't, and you need to pull back. So here's the great thing about this. So I won't leave you hanging. When this client did that, literally before she could even be out of the country for a week, things start popping in her inbox, and she's reaching out to me. She's like, oh my gosh, I don't even have good enough Wi-Fi to deal with some of this. But we were able to stay in touch. I'm like, well, just let me know what you need help with and we'll do it. And so that by the time she came back, she was completely rejuvenated. Her health had improved greatly. And these opportunities that were showing up in her inbox while she was gone continued when she returned. And even though it wasn't immediate, within weeks, she had a new opportunity that she was willing to take. She had not short cycled. She had not just jumped into the next thing because it was there. She had stuck to her guns and said, here's what I want to do and here's how I want to do it. And did not settle just because something looked like it was worth it. She did not just accept it. Because there were those moments. There were several moments where she's like, I think I should just take this one and call it a day. But I'm like, is that what you really want to do? Okay. So short cycling your transition can look like, you know what? This looks like a good gig. I should just take this one and move on. That's called settling. And when we settle, we're often not going to be happy in the long run. You will pay for it later. You will recognize it later on as I did not wait this out and I should have. But it's tough, especially if you have a family, if you got, it's like, I got to pay my bills, or you're just tired. Here's the thing. Do what you're worth, and you're worth reaching for the stars and not settling. Right? This making an active decision to do something is different than settling, because settling means, well, I don't know that I can believe in this anymore. So I should just accept what's there. And that's not what we're here for. All right. That's not what we're here for. All right. So great. Make sure you prepare yourself for the long haul. I have been saying this and people don't believe me. Every time I work with someone or someone who comes to me and they say, hey, I want to do X, I'm like, that's great. You really should get started now, because in 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, where do you want to be? And when they put it off and they're like, yeah, but that but gets them in trouble every single time, because 6 months, 9 months, 12 months down the road, and they haven't gotten there, they're even more frustrated, and their transition has now been elongated. It's been drawn out, and they're in a space they really don't want to be at because they didn't take the leap of faith for themselves on the front end. And that may sound a little harsh, and I don't mean it harshly. It's just the truth, because sometimes there are sacrifices we have to take on the front end that are totally going to be worth it on the back end. All right. And it's a growth point. It's a growth point for all of us. We've all done it. I've done it. And you just learn to recognize them sooner, or you learn to deal with the consequences of not taking that leap of faith. Okay. So, but prepare yourself. The folks that I've been working with, when we go through these things, these transitions are no less than 6 months. I mean, they're minimum 6 months. Most of them are 9 to 12. And it seems like, how can that be? But I'm looking backwards now and I'm like, oh my gosh, because what seemed like such a long haul ahead turns out to be a blink when you look at it from behind. All right. So don't think about, oh my gosh, but 6 and 9 months, that's a long time away. It's really not. It's really not in this market. And before you know it. So do the work, do the thing, get the help that you need, because before you know it, you'll be knee deep in that transition and you'll be like, what should I be doing? And you'll be having to catch up with wherever you are. It can be done. Don't get me wrong. It can be done, but you have to be even more strategic and even more focused about what it is you're going to do, so that you don't cut yourself drowning and getting overwhelmed in the midst of that transition. Okay. All right. So that's scenario number 2. Here's the scenario number 3. I really want more, fill in the blank, money, time off to work remotely. But what if they don't give it to me? What if this next opportunity is not there for that? What if I can't pull it off? There's you hear a lot of doubt in that, right? And you want these things, but what are you going to do to get them? Or do you even feel like you can in the midst of this transition? And this is really getting to the point of being able to speak up for yourself and being really empowered in what it is you want to do. And I've had some great experiences with a couple of clients in the last year or so. And I hadn't even been that much, maybe 6 months, who basically just said, you know what, I'm going to ask for what I want. Like, what do I have to lose? So one of them is the client I just mentioned a second ago, where even in the midst of these transitions and getting, some offers that she decided not to take, or offers that she, pushed the envelope on, it's like, what do I have to lose by asking for what I want? Nothing. The worst that they can say is no. But here's what happened. When she asked for them, several of the people, both times, maybe 3 times, they were like either yes, and, or no, but, right? No, but we can do this. Yes, and we would like to do this. Yes, what else, right? So I was so excited for her when I heard these things, because it's like, when you go in feeling that empowerment, knowing that you are worth whatever it is you're about to ask for, you don't have any fear about if they say no. What if they say no? So what? Because then that's your decision to make. Are you going to go ahead and move forward with it? Or are you going to say, no, thank you? That is a very empowered way and method and to move forward and to in order to be able to be in and space to be in, right? And we all can be that empowered. We all can be that way. Another client that I'm thinking about, who I was helping to work through some strategic planning that they needed for their position at work and helping them situate some things. But a part of it also was like getting them situated so that they can, ask for a raise in the midst of all this work that they were doing. And so we talked about how things were done in her organization and how they normally don't, grant, raises in this way and all of this. I said, that's fine. Here's the number I think you should ask for. If they say no, what do you lose? And you go through it. So we had set that all up and we hadn't caught up in a while. But more recently, she followed up with me and she's like, hey, I know we haven't caught up, but I just need you to know that I asked for that thing that we set out. I didn't get it. However, I did get the max that they could give me at that point in time, which they never do. I'm like, when? Like, W. I love it because think about it. If she had not asked for over that, she would have settled for way lower. And what do we just say? We don't settle. What's the worst that could happen? They say no. The best that could happen, you get what you ask for. Or mid-ground, guess what? They do something that you never expected them to do. These are the things that you have, the opportunities and the possibilities when you are willing and able to speak up for yourself, not just for what you need, because so many times we limit ourselves by only asking for what we need. And I know that sounds weird, but you can be limiting yourself by only asking for what you need. Whatever happened to asking for what you want? Go for what you want because it normally exceeds what you need. Ask for it because you already know your need is what your minimum is. It's what your minimum should be anyways, right? So ask for what you want and don't ever let that be a hindrance to you moving forward. Okay? You have more power than you think. And this is not in some egotistical way of like, oh, I'm so. No. It's not about that at all. It's about walking confidently in your worth and what your skill set is and what your capabilities are and who you are as a person, as well as an employee, as a business owner. It doesn't matter. I'm talking about it in terms of getting a new position. But guess what? If you are a business owner and you're working on a contract or a new gig or a project, the same thing applies. I do it all the time, right? Where you negotiate a better position for yourself. You leave yourself open to be able to have some flexibility for what you ask for. Because what's the worst thing that can happen? They say no. That leaves you right here. Leaves you where you started. There's no bad to that. All right? So I highly recommend that you think about that, asking for what you want, not just for what you need. Do not leave opportunities on the table. And notice I did not say money because most people just go straight to money. No, sometimes it's opportunities that are being left on the table. Don't do it. Don't leave opportunities on the table because your opportunities are the leverage point for what's next for you. You can leave some money on the table, but if the opportunity is worth more than the money, here's the thing, right? So that's something else to be thinking about. Don't limit yourself to the obvious. What's the next level thing that could happen? if you go ahead and pursue this thing, pursue this opportunity. And what looks like someone's like, well, why would you step away from that? Yeah, because you've got a bigger plan in place. Don't be influenced by other people who don't understand your strategy for your plan, for your business, and for your career. Plain and simple. All right. And that's a whole other conversation we've had about making sure certain friends and family or colleagues stay out of your business when they don't understand the full picture. All right. And it's not even about being negative or whatever. It's just kind of like, thank you for that input, but here's my plan. Here's where I'm headed. All right. Okay. Let's see. Do we have any questions out there? I don't see any. We've gone a little bit longer than we normally would, but I think it was worth it to get out a few of those common scenarios that I see people face when dealing with transitions in their career and their business. And I would love, love, love to answer any other questions that you might have. So if you have some, feel free to DM me, message me. And if you found this valuable, please share it with your network, share it with other people, and know that I'm available for consultations as well. And just reach out, and we can have a chit chat about what it is that you need in order to achieve your best self at your next level. Okay. All right. Take care, everybody, and have a fantastic start to your week. Bye-bye.